Your balance is made up of a complex array of peripheral sensory receptors in various sensory systems. I want you to think about things like proprioception and visual inputs and vestibular inputs and how they all contribute to one's balance and the ability to control your orientation within space. I love the quote in this article. They state that without appropriate knowledge of self orientation, equilibrium control will be severely compromised. Now, I want you to think about that. Without appropriate self orientation, equilibrium is severely compromised. What does that mean? Well, the example that I often use with my patients is let's say that you were to get into your automobile and head somewhere that you've never been before. You'd probably put your intended destination into your GPS in order to get you there, but now imagine that your GPS doesn't know what your current location is. You'll never get to your destination. It doesn't know if you're in Delaware or Denmark. So your GPS isn't going to be of very much help. Now, the same thing applies to us as humans. In order for us to move, or let's just take a step back, in order for us to simply have the ability to stand upright requires a basic understanding of where we're located at in space. If you really think about it, it's quite remarkable how much goes into one's ability to simply navigate this world, considering we always have to be making these slight adjustments depending on if, let's say, that you're walking on a slippery surface or a tilted surface or a compliant surface like a thick plush carpet, or maybe something's moving in the environment, or maybe I have an externally applied force hit me like someone bumping into me, and all these things can be happening at the same time. What am I talking about? Well, let's first lay the groundwork of all three of these systems that we spoke on earlier. First up, you have the vestibular inputs. Your vestibular system is the system within your inner ear, and it has fluid in there. And so now every time I move my head, that fluid moves and it tells my brain which way and how fast I just moved my head. The next system is proprioception. And this is the feedback that your brain is receiving from all your muscles and joints. So for example, if I turn my head to the right, I now not only get input from my inner ear, saying that I turn my head that way, but I also get input from my neck because the position of the joints are changing and the muscles are stretching. This is important because this is what allows the brain to be able to decipher movement of the head versus movement of the body. Now, if I turn my head to the right, obviously my inner ear and my proprioception from my neck will relay a signal to the brain that I move my head this way. But what if I keep my head still and I just rotate my body to the left? Either way, in both of these situations, my chin ends up on my right shoulder. But if I'm only moving my body, I don't get any input from my vestibular system. So it's a process of elimination. Lastly, we have the visual system, and the visual system tells us where things are in the environment relative to me. For example, if Eileen were to be sitting in front of me and she moved to my left, my brain now has to say, did Eileen move to the left or did I move to the right? And again, it comes down to this process of elimination because if I can take a step back and say, well, these two systems, the vestibular system and the proprioceptive system, didn't say that I moved this way, it had to have been Eileen. So in this article, they discuss how in the absence of visual feedback, the central nervous system should increase reliance on vestibular and proprioceptive feedback to maintain postural stability. This is known as sensory reweighting. Sensory reweighting is the process through which the nervous system changes the emphasis of a particular sensory input due to either a neurological injury or when environmental conditions change. For example, when my eyes are open and I sway forward, it will appear as if the world's moving upwards. That information makes its way into the brain and says, hey guy, if you don't contract some muscles to pull yourself backwards, you're going to fall on your face. Now, if my eyes are closed, the primary source of information about one's body orientation is proprioception. But if my eyes are closed and I'm on some sort of compliant surface like sand or a plush carpet or maybe like a foam pad, in these types of situations, my ankles will start to wobble. And so my brain says, whoa, 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 I don't know what's going on down there. So we're going to have to make a shift from utilizing proprioception to more vestibular inputs. During eyes closed stance on a fixed level surface, like hardwood or concrete or whatever it may be, the primary sensory source for information about body orientation in space is proprioception. But under conditions where the platform moves or your ankles start to be unstable, the primary source of sensory information shifts from proprioceptive to vestibular. Now, from a clinical perspective, we can manipulate these variables through diagnostic testing to decipher which system is impaired and then perform targeted rehab at that system to improve one's balance. If you're going to a provider for balance issues and all they're having you do is balance training, because that's obviously what you would do, right? My balance is impaired, so I need to train my balance. Hopefully you can see now how it's much more complicated than that. And with the appropriate testing and clinical acumen, we can conjure up a treatment plan that is much more specific and catered uniquely to you and your needs.